Welcome to Universal Furniture. You are in the Learning Center, and we've got a whole host of events here this week. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing, and if it's your first time to the space, welcome. There is a ton to see here. The building's 115,000 square feet. There's 3 floors, so there's some elevators currently out of order, so you can get your steps in and use the stairs. But there's tons to see, including a new collection that we have at Coastal Living on floor 3. We have outdoor on floor 3 as well. That's in stock. We got some great in-stock looks on floor 2 with Miranda Kerr Home. And then on floor 1, we have special order upholstery, shipping in 6 to 8 weeks. And then we also have the Designer's Lounge, which has some fun activations taking place, including a beauty bar. So if you need a hair touch-up before you hit the town tonight, feel free to do that. If you want to see any of the showroom, just check in at the front desk afterwards, and they'll scan you in. And then there's also, we have these scanners. Everything in the showroom is tagged, so you can actually scan things that you like. So scan away. And then when you check out, you'll get an email with everything that you scanned. It just is really easy to kind of keep track of things. So I wanted to welcome you again to the Learning Center. Laura Umansky is going to take and introduce the panel. We've got a number of the events here that kind of touch on different subjects. Hopefully it touch on your design business. And things that you could be looking at to be more efficient, be more productive, make more money, have more fun. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Laura, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Oh, I'm on. Okay. Hi, I'm Laura Umansky. I have an interior design firm based in Houston, Texas, and in Aspen, Colorado. It's called Laura U Design Collective. And we've also just recently launched a new business called Design Dash, and it is focused on community and confidence for interior design business owners specifically. So today's talk is very timely, just about the culture of your firm. And so let me introduce our panel. So Brian Yates, he's the principal designer and co-founder of Yates Design, based in, and that's design with a Y. It's clever because his name is Brian with a Y. Based in Dallas, Texas, with accomplishments spanning landscape architecture, commercial hospitality design, and luxury residential interior design. Brian has conceptualized and created elevated, tailored interiors for projects across the globe. Based in Dallas, so I'm going to, let's go to Lorna. Lorna Gross is the president of Lorna Gross Interior Design, based in Washington, D.C. metro area. She's recognized for her warm spirit and sophisticated style. The meticulous projects designed by Lorna and her team have gained the firm international recognition. Welcome. And last but not least, based in Dallas, Texas, Morgan Farrow is the founder and principal of Morgan Farrow Interiors. Morgan's known for creating expansive, full home projects that exude her signature style of livable luxury and perfectly reflect her clients' personalities. So welcome. Thanks, guys, for being here. Just before we dive in, a few words on culture, company culture. That's what we're talking about today, is how to build your firm culture. And I found that to be an interesting question because it seems really nebulous to me. Like, how do you create intentionally a firm culture, or do you? I don't know the answer to that. So what culture is, straight from the interwebs, from Google, it's the collective sum of what you and your team think, say, and do as you're working together. It's the shared values, your informal ways of doing things, and your formal systems and processes. Basically, it's your how and your why. It affects your daily interactions, your clients, your team, how you make decisions, and ultimately how you're perceived to the public out in the world. So how do you create culture to be what you want it to be, or can you control it? I guess, or, we're going to dive into this. So I'm dying to know. All right. I guess I'm going to start with Brian, because he's trying not to make eye contact.
I feel like it's one of those games. So you're like, don't pick this up.
I have never moderated a panel, guys. I've always sat in your seats and I'm like, oh my God, when's someone going to call on me? So I'm like, I've had this like major power play right here. Okay, so Brian, if you will kick us off and talk about, is this a lot of feedback? Is it terrible? Okay. Talk about where you're located, number of team members, your role in the firm. Just paint a picture of your firm, please.
Well, we're located in Dallas, Texas. We are a firm of 5 people at the moment, including my husband and I, that kind of run the entire operation. We are a new firm. We're getting ready to hit our 7-year marker. And to us, it really is important to kind of exude who we are and where we're wanting to take it. And for us, we believe our family, our team is our family. And that's kind of how we start everything. Very personal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lorna, how about you? Where are you located? Tell us about your firm and your team.
So my firm is located just outside of Washington, D.C. There are 7 of us, including the administrative side of the house and the design side of the house. Sorry about that. And for us, I feel like there are a number of core values that we have. My firm, by the way, is in its 17th year. So we've been around for a while. That has given me time to make mistakes and correct them. But we're very much about professionalism and warmth and personalization. Also, from a design perspective, having a sophisticated aesthetic. But I think that most importantly, just as Brian said, we are very familial. It took us a while to get there, and we can talk a little bit further, a little bit later about how that happened, because you do have to be intentional about doing that.
Great. Okay. And Morgan, tell us all about you. Tell us all about your whole team
My
is
posse.
sitting here. Yeah. Hi, guys.
Oh, champs. So also out of Dallas, Texas, we have a firm of 9 total, 8 of which are here. We left accounting at home. So we have been operating for 11 years and have really sort of the same pulse as you, Brian. We really sort of, family first. We definitely are a team of this like crazy sisterhood who we live large, we work hard, we hustle, and most of all, we have fun. And I think that that pulse really bleeds through to the experience that we create for our clients. And it's super important to us to sort of have the process down tight and then layer the fun on top. And so that's really sort of the pulse of how we create our culture.
Awesome, because it's always fun. Interior design is nothing but fun all day, every day. So just a little bit about our firm really quickly. So I've had my firm a little over 15 years, and there are 20 of us. I don't know how many in design, maybe 12, and then the rest are marketing and back of the house. So similar, we have a big team also. So my next question, and we'll go down this way. How about that?
Okay.
So how did you establish your culture, or was it more organic? How did you start?
I think it's really organic for us. I think for me, thinking about what is our culture and how do we exude that, to me it's like the response to issues or problems. Like the pulse you keep when you're dealing with an issue is really when you shine or don't. And I think the way that, I approach problems is probably really with ease and a large amount of grace. And so I feel like when you have, that approach, that your people just sort of follow in that path. And so I think if you're sort of working to create culture, it's really, they're going to follow how you respond. And I think really latch on to who you are in that place. And so I think that's really, when I think about how did this happen, I think that that's how.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it's just, we're silly and it's just fun. And yes, it's hard, of course, but the response to the hard is really how I think we have gotten our culture to where it is.
So if you're not running around screaming at everyone, it's probably a good thing.
I think that's a good day.
Yeah.
That's a good day.
Yeah, okay. Lorna, how about you? How did your culture grow, and is it intentional?
It is absolutely intentional.
Okay.
And I would say for everyone who owns a firm, culture starts from the top down, right? And you have to be very strategic about it. So whenever I go about interviewing someone, I make sure that I not only do the interview, but they also get to meet the team, because there has to be synergy with the people that are existing in the team. And then I also know for myself that I get things done really fast. So then it would be unfair for me to hire someone who doesn't have the same kind of flow that I have, right? So when I do my job postings always say this is a fast-paced firm. Do you want to work at a fast-paced firm?
Heads up, we move fast.
Yeah, exactly. So our moniker is meticulous work, joyful living, right? Which is kind of like we're bad A, but we're also kind.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it's a delicate balance between the two. And it's really not that we are familial, but it's not that we never have a disagreement. It's not that we never have pain points. Like we're coming off of a week that was painful for us. But we also know that everyone in our firm has a voice, right? And so being able to have the difficult conversation and problem solve, as you said earlier, regarding the pain points so it doesn't happen again is also important.
Okay, same question, Brian.
I think for us, it really is about being organic and authentic, and really just knowing who we are as individuals. And that's how we kind of form our team and how we kind of operate. You know, we live very authentic lives. And I always say at the end of the day, you're getting the exact person that I am here and at home. And for us, that's just really important. And I think that that just kind of bleeds and naturally forms the culture that we're trying to achieve, right? For us, it really is all about being playful and having a sense of family. I know that we're not necessarily family, but, you know, we scream and fight just like every family does. So why not call it family, right? But at the end of the day, it really is about having fun and educating within, educating without, but also being respectful and playful. And, you know, at the end of the day, we always say, I believe design is kind of like ice cream, right? Like you have the foundation, you have the process that you put into place, and then the projects are bringing that flavor into it, right? And so I kind of love that analogy of like, our process, our culture is there, and then we're adding to it constantly with the projects that we have, the people that we bring in. And I love the fact that everyone has a voice. As a collective, we are a team, and I introduce us all as a team. And I'm very adamant when we take on projects because we don't take on everything or everyone. For us, it really is a relationship. I want to be able to have, you know, a bottle or two of wine with a client. And I say bottle because, you know, why not? That's only 4 glasses. But really it is, at the end of the day, you know, that is part of our culture. It is having fun. It is, you know, we're doing really great work that I feel enhances someone's quality of life, but it really is about just having fun throughout the process. And that's what we want our team to have as well.
Awesome. Okay, so I have like a whole list of questions, but you guys are saying some good things. I'm going to go off script. So Lorna, you mentioned values. So do you set your core values within your firm? And if yes, does your whole team contribute, or did you set the values and then you just put those on repeat?
Yeah, I think that authenticity, which Brian said, is very important. Like the values that I set have to be values that I have internally, right? So for example, I have a high value around diversity, right? Like my firm is probably one of the most diverse firms you're ever going to see, right? There's African Americans, there's Jewish, there's Latino, there's LGBT, there's Indonesian, there's spans 3 generations. So that's important to me, and you see it come through in my firm. But I think that, you know, regarding just how the president influences the culture, for me, this has been a learning process. So I had to learn to, for example, become more vulnerable to my staff so that we could have a more family-oriented relationship. Because what I know is that if my team feels connected, it's much less likely that one of them is going to leave quickly, right? Because because I hug them, I tell them I love them, and we do, everybody does, right? You're like, what?
Sorry, guys. Wow, good.
But you know, and we literally have, and my couple team members are here, we literally have come to each other's rescue in difficult situations. So that is established from the top down, but if there is a member of the team that's brought in that doesn't believe, that doesn't feel part of it, then they're probably not going to last. Very recently, I hired a gentleman from New York, and he's like, this isn't real, is it? And so after about 6 weeks, he's like, oh, wait a minute, this is actually real?
Yeah.
So I think that most of the members of our team recognize, if they work somewhere else, they know that what we have is special.
Yeah.
Right? And so they may get an offer from another firm to go work over there. It's just I want them to hesitate before they say they're going to go.
Absolutely.
Right.
So here's a question for you, Morgan.
Okay.
Has your culture changed over time? Did you start in one place and you feel like it's evolved into something else?
I don't think so, because I feel like it's been like, I don't feel like this is the thing that I want to keep and maintain. It has never felt like it's this one thing. I think I'm just who I am, and really, I love how Brian said, you're going to get me in all the ways. And sometimes I'm not my best self, but I let everybody see that. And I feel like we are authentic in that. And so I don't feel like it has been it was this, and then I tried to make it this. I think it's always been, this is who we are. Like, you're either attracted to it or you're not. And I think that I just think it's there. And I think it's just the spirit of me sort of coming through the team. And then I think that we're all like little moths to each other. We just keep sort of grabbing like moths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, to your point, creating the sense of family, like, y'all can't go anywhere. I mean, you're not allowed. And so I feel like once, we have had moments where the team has been shaken, because I am a little bit of sunshine and rainbows perspective, and I have hired inappropriately, and it was really quick for us to see that this is wrong, and we had to flush. And I think that's hard for me, because I'm a people person, and I love to hold on to people and like, oh, but don't leave. And then my amazing team is like, no, please let them leave. So I think it's good that we have the opportunity to have, that back and forth with the team, for them to be like, wake up now, like, not gonna work. So I think that we have just that interaction between us to be able to have the pulse, where sometimes I can be a little blinded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a really good segue, because my next question is, how do you hire for culture fit? Brian, we'll kick it down to you. Do you have a process for hiring, and what is that? Do you have questions?
So I feel like it's a little bit of a trial and error in business, right? And what we have done is honed in on our process from start one to now. Like, it constantly evolves, but our evolution to today is really, we will get all the information for people that we're getting hired and kind of weed down who we want to interview. And then what we've done is kind of remove ourselves from the mix. They start off with going to our senior designer and either a junior or intermediate designer. And I want them to ask questions. I don't tell them anything of what to do. They form their own questions. I want them to really engage with them and see if they fit, because they're the ones that are getting, to really be in the weeds with. And then from there, I will, and my husband will interview with the client with the prospective employer. And it's been really helpful for us. That has kind of really created almost a bigger bond when we hire them, and our team really already melts with them, and it's been a good experience for us. And that's kind of what we do now. Obviously, we have the last say in it, and we're helping to create that narrative of who we're going to hire. But, we might say, hey, these three are really great fit. I'd love for you to interview them. And if they say, hey, we want to have these people move on, then we will interview them. And it's been a really good process for us.
Okay. Lorna, what about you? What's your hiring process like?
So similar to Brian's, but one of the other very important things that we started doing a number of years ago is to utilize Clifton Strength Finders.
Okay.
And basically, it's a tool that helps us assess the strengths of a candidate. It's individual to the role and it's individual to the culture of the company. So for me, what I'm looking for out of 34 strengths is I need to be able to see that this person is a high achiever in their top 7. If it's a designer, I need to see that they're able to build relationships in their top 7. And also that they have the ability to adapt, because in our profession, things are constantly changing, right? So there are these boxes that I look to be checked, because sometimes you're loving the person in the interview and then you look and you're like, oh, wait a minute. wait, hold on. So, that's kind of like the tool that I can use to kind of get like an honest assessment of if this person is going to be successful or not.
Sounds like I need to call Lorna.
Yeah, right. I know. We need.
Like, will I pass her test?
Can you give it to me next?
So we also use, it's not a personality test because Melissa, who is our COO, refuses to listen to personality tests. But we use, it's called Birds Finder, a birds test. And it tells you what your personality is like. And we know in specific roles what personality works where. And we know, like, if you are this specific personality and we're hiring for a designer, then you are probably not going to be a fit with our culture. That's not the only thing that dictates our hires. But what about you? Morgan, what dictates your hires?
Remember when I said sunshine and rainbows?
Yes.
I'm not a great interviewer because I just love them all.
You really want to get along. Yeah.
I will take all the stray cats, except I don't like cats. So it's really hard. No, we definitely.
That does not reflect on you guys at all.
At all. You're not strays, you're loved. No, I definitely ask teammates to make a lap and help me vet, because it's really super hard for me personally to not just take everybody.
You're finding the good in everyone.
I really
Yes.
am. And we do use the Enneagram, which it's an interesting method, but it's
so complex. I can never remember.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
How we have then collected like a group of Enneagram numbers. And so I think that was a surprise. We just sort of did that in the last probably 4 years. And so that's just been a hoot to figure out, like, oh, we're all the same or very close. So yeah, I would say we send it through the team, and then obviously I have the last say, but I don't lean into my own self.
Okay. Well, moment. I mean, that's a lot of self-awareness. So that's great.
Could I add something?
Yes. Please.
Well, one thing that I forgot to say too is we do a 30 or 60-day trial as well, which is an hourly. So we have a 60-day hourly contract with them. After that 60 days, then we'll go into a salary position. And it's basically a nice way to say, hey, this isn't a fit, or this is a fit in your, we're going salary. So that's another thing that we do as well.
Okay.
That's so smart. And we do the same. It's actually 90 days, because I find that people can kind of like fake it for 60. But after that 60,
then they get comfortable and they're like, this is me.
But the other thing that we do too is check references, right?
Yeah, we're not good at that.
It's really helpful. It's very helpful.
Yes, and actually we have started that process as well after we've run into a couple of issues and we realized we didn't check references. We should probably work that into a process. We have a very robust interview process, and it's maybe even too much, but we go through 3 steps. It's a phone screen. We narrow that down. They come in and meet with their direct manager, who is typically a director of interior design, or it could be Melissa if it's like a high-level operations position. And then they meet with someone from the exec team. So it's a long interview process, not long, intense.
Yeah.
We try to do it as fast as possible, because if there's someone really great, we don't want to let them go. But we also want to make sure. So I think that checking references is key.
But okay, I'm going to just, be devil's advocate here. I think sometimes just like clients aren't always the best fit for us, and they are the best fit for another designer. I think that employees can be that same way.
That's true.
And so I feel like personally, it's sometimes a little bit hard to take and call a reference. But I think one thing that I've done, or we've done as a company, is you can ask questions as far as, how are they going to approach their last design firm that they were at, right? There's trigger words that they say that you're like, that's, I could see something, or, I think that asking questions and kind of being a little bit of an investigative interviewer, that, or maybe it's just me, but that seems to help more so than a reference.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the referencing is grain of salt. Like,
Yeah.
know who you're calling,
Mhm.
probably. I mean, there are other design firms that I would call that I know the designer that owns it, so I know kind of what to expect.
Yeah.
And so I will take it or leave it. But on the flip side, if you know someone is not gelling, they are not a fit, you thought maybe they made it past that 90 days, it's not working. How do you know when that's happening, and how do you part?
Trust your gut. I think that's number one for us. And I think listening to your team, too, is also hugely important, because I think as owners, and we can be running in 2 million directions and not have that beat of the day to day, what's happening in office. And I think so. Maybe you see something that's off and you're like, oh, that's not what I would do or how I would react, or where'd you go? And then asking, your mates, like, did I see that? Am I in check with this? Am I loony right now? Or like, what happened? And usually it's unanimous, it's time. And then I think and then you just got to cut and run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lorna.
I think when the person is close to you, it's easier to make the assessment, right? You can see obviously that they're missing the mark. But as your firm gets larger, then you have to rely on your managers, right? And you just have to trust that what they see is real. So we were recently dealing with this, one of my lead designer came to me and was like, okay, this person may not be working out. So what am I going to do? What are you talking about? I mean, I like her, but the thing is, it's like if she's not checking the boxes, then she's going to have to go. But many years ago, a owner of a construction company said to me that they love the person out the door.
Yep.
So my thing is to always be kind. If that person came to you and wanted to work at your company, then at the point where you're going to let them go, make sure that you're taking care of them in that moment also, right? Whatever that looks like, giving a reference, making a call, giving them advice, letting them come back to you and ask you for recommendations. So always just kind of loving them out the door is important too.
I love that. That's
Love
not,
that,
yeah, that works for you.
I mean, that does work. I say cut them loose, but I'm really, that's
Cut 'em
harsh.
loose. You're like, no, let them out the door.
That's super, yeah. I mean, I'm hyper focused on that too. Like there was a moment where we had to scale down years and years ago, and I got 2 of my girls new jobs. Like I made sure that they were secure, and we always do a severance. And I'm like, I joke about cutting them loose, but I'm like,
Sure you are.
I love you, but it doesn't work. So
We're not a good fit for you.
We're not a good fit.
You're not a good fit for us.
Yes.
You're going to find your bliss.
Best
else-
wishes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about you, Brian? You're loving them out the door?
Well, I was going to say this. No, I love everyone all the time.
Wink, wink.
No, this is so new for us, and we just went through this. And honestly, it is the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do. Our firm is getting ready to hit their 7-year marker. We've had 3 people that have come and gone in our firm, 2 of which left on their own and has been great. 1 recently last week that we had to do. And, everything is very personal to me. And I think that I probably cried more than she did. But because she checked all the boxes, and that was the hardest part. But in my gut, I knew that we weren't doing her a service, and someone else would reap the benefit of her. And so it's incredibly hard. And we did give her an entire month's severance because we wanted her to have the ability to as my therapist always says, back up, be quiet and breathe. We wanted her to have that moment, you know, and so yeah, it's definitely extremely hard.
Agreed. I think that's like the least favorite thing out of it. Being a business owner is having to part with somebody that could have been a good fit for a while, and then it just gets hard.
Yeah.
So as things do get tough, because we go through tough economic times, or we have those clients that are just beating us down, or like, beating the team down, and that's really hard to see. So during hard times, what is it about your culture that keeps everyone there or keeps morale up? Is that a hard question?
It's a great question.
Great.
You want to go first?
Yay.
Okay. So I remember our first hire, which was a big deal because I just had to coast my husband into our first employee, and then the pandemic hit, right? And one thing that we said was, do not worry about your job. We have you no matter what. And that has, I feel like that, just not the pandemic, but for everyday life, is, we have our employees back all the time. And for us, it is the good and the bad. And there's a lot of times where they go through trouble, and we're there to say, hey, we had an employee, her dad died. We're like, you take as long as you need off, because we understand how difficult that is, and we have your back. And I think that is really important, that they know that there's a safety net.
Yeah, and we had a recent situation where we were presenting to what we learned was a somewhat emotionally abusive client, right?
Yep, we've had those.
Yeah. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to expose my team to that again. I might be able to take it, but I'm not going to let them be exposed to it. So then I go back and say, okay, here are your options. It's going to be like this, or you're going to be fired. And we're going to let them go.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, one little seed can spoil the morale of your whole team, right? So then as the owner, you have to step up and make sure that your team is well taken care of.
Agreed.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think for us, it's like we are of the same perspective, where if a boundary gets pushed to the edge of our tolerance, right? I think first it's learning our tolerance for, again, what I can take versus what all of us can take. If we get pushed to that limit, knowing that I give full autonomy to any of our players to wave the flag, right? To say, I can't do this anymore. I need a different solution. I need to let a client go. This is not worth it for my livelihood, because at the end of the day, we have to go home and be other humans besides designers. And I think knowing the boundary is one of the hardest parts, I think, of growing your team and growing as a designer, and learning, okay, I won't tolerate being treated like that. Or if we have a massive mistake, I think it's like, okay, let's take that as a little bubble and learn from it. We're not going to try to do it again, but if we do, that's okay. And then we're just going to keep going. So I feel like the blips that we have, it's like learning how to stop when we need to stop. And to Brian's point, I think knowing that the net is always there. Like that's strong, and we've got you. And it sort of goes back to the family dynamic.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not going to fall too fast.
Like
but
giving
we're
them
gonna
permission
get
to
you.
make mistakes.
Yes,
It's okay. And
yeah, permission always.
We had a project where our senior designer now made a mistake that I didn't catch in construction documents, and caused us to replace the entire stone in the kitchen for this project. I mean, about a $20,000, mistake. And for us to say to her, hey, at the end of the day, this is our company, and I did not catch this mistake. This has nothing to do with you. Had soared. Like, she is now incredibly creative and takes risks, and knows that we have her back during anything. And I think that has only helped us to grow a employee that is valuable to us, that is amazing. So
Well, you're not
It's always
paralyzed-
lessons.
paralyzed in the fear
Yeah.
of like, oh, if I make a mistake, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and
come
at the
on.
end of the day, in our business, there's so many moving parts. There's no way to be perfect
it's
in that,
mistakes all
right?
day.
Oh gosh.
But I do think that it's also important to, with our teams, let them know that we still have to talk about the painful stuff, right?
Right.
Like when there are pain points, you just can't go, okay, I'm just going to sugarcoat that and walk away. Like you have to be able to brainstorm and try to problem solve so that you won't be at that point of pain again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, we have to do, we reinstituted this 15-minute reset that, you know, if you're kind of like, look, you're getting on my,
dance party.
yeah, it's like, if
We
you're,
love
you're
a
getting on my
dance party.
nerves.
We do a dance party all the time.
You're getting on my nerves right now, so then I'm going to take a 15-minute reset, or you need to take a 15-minute reset, or whatever. Wednesday, I took a 45-minute reset, but that was a whole other story.
No one's
No one's
counting.
counting.
So I don't have a reset. We need to do that, I guess.
We have
I'm
resets.
more like the butterflies and unicorns. I'm like, it's okay.
It's fine. We have resets, and I don't really think they're resets. I think we do some really intentional, like team building.
That's my next
Oh, I'm
question.
going
Okay.
there.
Yes. Okay. Do
Yeah.
you do team building,
We
and what do you do?
Yeah. So
It's planned.
Yes, but I also like to have like a spontaneous, like,
Okay.
oh, I'm gonna get you. And so, yes, we are fortunate that somehow like our birthdays sort of clump. And so we're real intentional about celebrating big for our birthdays. And I feel like that's our moment to like hug it out, right? Like really. It
There's a
sounds
lot
like
of
you need to
physical
be hugging
touch
someone.
happening. No, I'm the most awkward hugger. My entire team is like, there's
Say,
no hug.
we don't
happening.
hug.
Oh no.
It's the
I'm
British.
gonna hug you so hard.
I can't. I was not raised that way.
You're from Texas.
I know.
What's
Anyway,
happened?
I don't know. I think I need to have a talk with my parents.
No, we
We're
do
same.
try to go big. Like we'll do and so I try to like close your ears. Make it somewhat quarterly to be like, oh my gosh, we've been running in 1,000 directions, and we do have Monday morning meetings where we all get to call it hug and howdy. We're gonna hug and howdy, and touch each other and say, okay, break, like let's go. But then from there, we like dive real
I
deep
love
on
this.
a quarterly basis and do a fun, who knows, like we once like had a lunch from a vendor, and then I surprised everybody with a karaoke band. And we spent the afternoon in the karaoke band drinking champagne. And so it's like, that
call
was
us
the
next
most,
time.
okay,
No
we'll drive up and
doubt.
get you. So it's like, I try to be like spontaneous and surprise with
But you're
fun
planning
things,
it for
but
real.
it's like a little, I did plan that 2 days before. I love you all. But it was super fun. So it's like, I think if you can think a little bit outside the box and do like a big like blip moment, I think that goes a long way. And it's fun just to not be so on top of everything all
Yeah,
the time.
Because balance is so important. So for us, we socialize once a month, right?
Okay.
Oh,
So it's either going to be a breakfast, a lunch, or a happy hour. And then every once in a while, I'm like, hey guys, anybody want to come drink with me? We need a drink today. But one of the things I think that is sweetest about my team is that like we definitely have each other's backs. And even when I'm not around, I see it. So one of our team members' birthday was last week, and they all went and celebrated with her. You know, and I think that
Did
is
you
just,
feel left out?
I was out of town. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm a FaceTime.
I know, of course.
I mean, but I do think that that helps to cement and synergize our team members. And then once a year, we also try to do a retreat out of town. So there's usually like, 2 days or 3 days and 2 nights where I let them get massages, and we begin with talking about, the state of the firm. And so we start with that first, but then it's like all fun. We do dinner and all of that. And next year, if we actually meet some goals, we're going to take everybody to New Orleans for a few days.
Nice.
So we do try to balance it out.
All right. Are you going to New Orleans? What's up?
Sure. Just tell me when. I'm always down to travel. But for us, we do once a month thing. Next week we're going to do pottery as a team, and what we do is everyone gets to pick something once a month. So like someone brought up the pottery, we're gonna do glass blowing or a cooking class. Like we're always trying to do things as a team and let them pick as well. We are such a small team that we're all kind of in the huddle together. So, you know, there's really not any separation, but it really is a collective figuring out what we want to do. So that's always the fun that we do once a month, but then we also do an educational moment also once a month in the interims of, you know, having the vendors come as well. But, and then for every presentation that we do, we always have wine and cheese. And so after that presentation, we eat the rest of it and drink the rest of the wine and talk about
we have
the
meeting
good.
pastries. Like, are there any meeting pastries left?
Yeah. And that's why we buy 4 presentations. It's really for us, not them.
Right. So it's interesting that you let everybody weigh in on what you're doing, because last time we did that, we ended up axe throwing. So we ended up team axe throwing, and there was very little supervision at this axe throwing place. So I'm sure that was a huge liability for us, but it was really fun. But every Friday we do Champagne Friday. And so we shut down the studio early. We all meet together, even if we're on Zoom or in person or whatever. I've been doing that since day one. So 15 years over that. And sometimes we'll pop champagne and sometimes we don't. But yeah, we just sit there.
We don't wait till Friday. We start on Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, Monday morning.
We do mimosa on Monday or prosecco. Yeah, during the GD meeting. Maybe that's why the design is like questionable. But
Yeah, Champagne Friday. Anybody that hears that, they're like, I'm gonna go ahead and come over on Friday. But we just share like our wins of the week. So we share.
Yeah.
We're a bigger team, so there's 20 of us. We may not always know what the other people are working on. So it's a good opportunity for everyone to come together and sit and show pictures. Like, hey, I did an install this week. This is what happened. Or like, a client gave a big shout out to one of our team members. Let's share it with everybody. So that's a good way to do it.
yeah, that's so important.
One thing though that has been really interesting, we're doing a Toyota mentorship program. And one thing that's really interesting about Toyota is they celebrate the bad. And they celebrate the bad in such a good way that is like an education. And so we've kind of brought that on with us as well. And sometimes we joke like, who's going to take all the brunt today? And usually it's always Mike, my husband, because, you know, why not? But so like we like to like point who is taking it on for the week, and that's been kind of fun too.
Wow, that sounds
a fun way to
intense.
twist it. Yeah, I like that.
But it becomes an educational moment, like, and I think that there's so many things that happen on a day-to-day basis, and it's all how we can learn from them. And I think if we can celebrate the bad, because then it helps to celebrate the great, I think is a really good way to only grow as a company.
Is that your goal this quarter? The sun shining mistakes? Megan's. Okay. So we set every team member has a goal every quarter that they work on and they report out on. And that's one of ours is sun shining the mistakes. Like it's not a big deal. Well, even if it is a big deal, what is it? And how did we approach it? What are we doing next time?
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up on Q&A. So before that, I had one other question. So best advice for those working to establish their culture now or shifting their culture? Any pieces of advice for culture building?
I think just be real. I think if you're sort of an untouchable leader, then your people are just going to float. I think if you're approachable and authentic and yourself, I think that's the best way for people to grab on to your spirit, right? Like, I don't think if you're this sort of brick wall and your door's always closed and you can't hug them, then
I don't even have an office. I have no door, but I am not hugging. I try.
HR.
I do try. I just can't. Anyway.
we're gonna.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
Okay.
So I think that's,
Yeah.
I think that's a really big key.
Yeah, and similarly, I think that being very clear about your own value system is important, because if it's askew, it's not going to work. I think also in 2023, I think any business owner should also be very aware of diversity, because what I know in my firm, because it is so diverse, we get to learn from each other. We get to be open-hearted and open-minded about conversations, and because of that, we get to serve our clients better. So I think that is also something very important to keep in mind today.
And that's a whole panel on its own.
It is.
Yeah.
We need to set that up. Brian, last thoughts?
I mean, I think listening and being open to change and suggestion and growth, I think is really important. So,
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We're going to wrap up here because I think everybody has somewhere to go, but I'll hang out for a minute if you guys want to and answer some other questions if there are any. Thank you guys all for being here. This is really great. If you're interested in hiring, more information on hiring, I'm doing a talk at Norwalk tomorrow at 4 p.m. on finding your next best hire, who you need to hire, what their skill set is, and how to do that. So come on over to that. But yeah, thanks so much, everybody.